I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're over us? Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Dallas Famous Podcast. We are kicking things off this year with a bang. We welcome Dallas royalty as Rhett Miller and Bethea of the Old 97s join us. We get right into the origins of the band's history 300 yards from the spot that they first played together. We touch on their early goals and reflect on an amazing career together that's far from over. We even got the guys to play a few classic songs in the studio. So sit back and enjoy this rare chat with both Rhett and Ken of Old 97s. All right, so we are here at the Dallas Famous Podcast, Deep Elm Community Center.
Yes.
First episode, Season 3. We've got Rhett Miller and Bethea from Old 97s. I'm a little bit jacked up about it because I'm excited to have you guys here. I'm going to start with a real simple question. Has the Old 97s, have you guys made it?
We made it a long time ago. I remember when Ken looked at me one time and he goes, remember when we wanted to be as big as X or the Pixies? We made that. I mean,
Yeah.
The Pixies have since kind of gotten big, both of those bands.
Right.
But, like, we hit the level we wanted to hit, like, in 98.
Right. Look, here's the deal. Depending on, I guess, here's the deal for me. If you do not have a regular job other than playing guitar, you have made it. Because that is the hardest thing to do in this music stuff, because we all know musicians who are constantly whatever they're doing on maybe they have just a regular job or whatever, and we have not had other jobs other than music related since 1994-5.
Which puts us, I think, in like the top 1%, which is sad. I mean, really, our culture needs music. We should be reimbursing musicians for their work, but we've been very lucky because we've gotten reimbursed to the point where, like Ken said, we don't got to have other jobs.
Mm-hmm. So when you started, though, like originally, like what was the goal? Like what did you think was going to happen?
We had two different goals. You tell yours.
So Murray and I had been doing bands. I recently found the very first interview I ever did with Paul Quigg and Liza Richardson over in the Mitchell
I saw
building.
that, yeah.
It was so embarrassing, but it was an interesting artifact. I was 16 years old, and at one point, of course, I did not share this clip because it just made me cringe so hard. I was rattling off the record label people that I had met with. I'm like, well, Arista sent somebody, and then there's somebody from Island, and I'm just this 16-year-old kid, and I'd already gotten my head just eaten up with the goal at the time, which was to get signed to a major record label. And I'm not sure that's changed, but it feels like it's a different world now because they don't have as much to offer or as many slots to fill. But so for me, I was definitely in those trenches of trying to get a major label record deal. And then Murray and I started bands, and our Sleepy Heroes project, I went and met with Kim Bowie, who was kind enough to meet with me. She still works in the industry. But it was around the time Nirvana played on SNL. I remember that was one of those crescendo moments where Murray and I realized we've been trying to do a thing kind of like this, and it's never felt like us. It's never felt authentic. It's felt more like we were trying to cash in on something, and we knew that, like, okay, this band was meant to do this. We weren't meant to do this. We quit doing music for about 6 months, me and Murray both. And we thought, maybe we just gotta, get jobs. And then Murray came to me and said, what if we start a band that just plays in coffee shops, doesn't have to worry about getting signed to a record label because it's not that kind of band. And then that became the Old 97s. Ken moved in across the hall. It turned into a whole thing, and ironically, of course, that was what did get signed to a major label deal and made a career out of it.
So that wasn't your goal, really.
But so the goal changed. It went from like get signed to a major record label deal and get on the fast track to whatever the 1990s version of stardom was in rock and roll, to doing the kind of band that we enjoyed doing. and then just kind of making a life out of that, whatever that looked like. And maybe that, taking the pressure off of it, and then taking that sort of calculated commercialism out of it, which is so gross. It always makes things worse.
Yeah.
Maybe that was what ended up letting us break through and connect with people on a real level, which gave us a career.
Huh. Okay. And what you said you had a different goal.
It's completely the opposite. So I didn't start. So I grew up outside of Tyler, not even in a town, like in just a oil road in a forest, and a place where you didn't really. I mean, moving to Dallas and being in a band that just had paying customers that you didn't know. I don't know. I'm certain I'm the only one. I do know a guy named Brady Mosier that is kind of a jazz guy, and he plays around. But the reality is, that was just so far out and far beyond. So, and I didn't start playing guitar. I was 18. So by the time I started playing guitar, that's why we have different things. He'd already made that video we're talking about. Rhett already had a record, and by the time he was 16 or so, or met real musicians. Played with other musicians. I mean, I went to see Frank Black one time that you opened.
Yeah.
I didn't even get
I was
there in
in high
time to
school.
see the opener, which sucks. I wish I had. I just didn't get there in time. But we had won free tickets on KNON.
Wow.
But the thing was, so when this, and I had a regular job when I met Rhett and Murray, and then we started kind of playing some guitars together. So once the band started, for me, realistically, just playing, my original 3 goals were, because I was a huge music fan, I would go see bands all the time. When the University of Texas was always down there to see music in Austin. So I thought, I just want to be one of those bands that when you look at the Dallas Observer, people would recognize your band name. Oh, it's Soul Food Cafe. They're playing this Saturday night, which is a band, and I would say, right? Then once the band did that, I thought, maybe we'll make a CD. I felt like that was going to happen, and we could sell 1,000. If we, because I had already by then heard that you could make a CD and nobody would buy it, right?
Yeah, and I still have like 800 of my 1,000 prints.
Yeah, it's just right. It's hard to sell them.
Yeah.
It's one at a time. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, because I knew we would theoretically get to play in Austin, didn't in Fort Worth. I thought, but if you go to Memphis, that's now a full 6 hours away. And I thought, if we could just have a gig in Memphis to go with the 1,000 CD sales and the name recognition, I'll have made it. That was my thoughts on it.
Interesting.
Maybe you cursed Memphis for us, because Memphis has been a cursed market.
Never had good. We don't have.
We've
great
had
shows.
the worst gigs, worst luck. We've shown up and the club was closed. We showed up and we've had really bad luck.
The
in
most
Memphis.
recent one was pretty good, but the room was too big.
Yeah.
It was the size of Gypsy.
It'll never be.
So
right.
maybe you're not successful in Kansas.
Yeah,
Mine.
you did. You still haven't got number 3.
No, I said just go there and play.
Just
That was
go
my
there,
idea.
okay.
I didn't say.
you didn't have to do well
I didn't say
there.
blow it up. Just go there and play.
I got you.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so you were like kind of had an established like writing thing going before Ken's in the picture. And then when you guys joined forces, I mean, it ends up being that's sort of like the birth of Americana, you guys and other bands. But like, what were you were just playing what felt natural? Were you like emulating anything? Like, how did that go?
I've been such an Anglophile. Like, I really loved, obviously, the Beatles, but then Bowie. And so, my first record I made in high school, recorded when I was 17, I kind of sang with a British accent. And I say kind of as a way to, soft pedal it.
We
but
all did.
I did, yeah. So, and then we'd try to do these bands that, like, it was the idea of an artist finding their voice, is a real thing. And some people find it, I think, a lot more naturally. For me, it took a while for me to figure out sort of who I was. And a lot of that is just sort of not trusting, apologizing, having imposter syndrome, not thinking I was good enough or whatever. So it took a while for me. And one thing that really helped was when we all got in a band together, the way Ken in particular is like you've always been so confident, and like you walk into a room and you think these people are so lucky that I'm in this room, and I walk into a room and I think like, oh my God, I hope they don't kick me out of this room. And so I learned a lot from you, and we were having so much fun, and it all coincided with Murray going through this real like Carter family phase, and I got really into Hank Williams Sr. And so I'd grown up thinking I loved Buddy Holly, but most of the stuff that had a lot of twang in it for me felt like the kind of music that the kids listen to, the kids that would beat me up, right? So these kids are beating me up listening to Willie Nelson. I'm not going to listen to Willie Nelson. Well, it turns out Willie Nelson is the greatest, you know?
Right.
And so when I finally was able to listen to and appreciate that kind of music, it was, for me, like 22 years old, it opened up an incredible door for me because I knew I liked kind of folk music and I knew I liked like real basic like British invasion, like pop, power pop music. But so when I realized that I could integrate that kind of Americana sound, you know, I kind of came into it super backwards. And so it's kind of ironic to me that we get credited for being a part of the first wave of, you know, alt country or Americana, because God knows, it wasn't like I grew up aspiring to that.
None of us did. Maybe slightly Murray. I mean, I don't listen to any country at all. Never have.
But you grew up here though, so wouldn't it just be like naturally you'd hear it and just be like in your?
I mean, I'm aware of course.
Yeah.
But the same thing though. Where I grew up, there was a lot of most of the guys, they like country, and I played high school sports, so they were my teammates, but I was against what they listened to. I thought it was stupid, and I was the guy that was listening to Talking Heads at the stupid country school. So,
Right.
So I got him immediately, like it wasn't any bridge whatsoever.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I'd heard of Rhett a little bit before I met him, and they would call him a teen folky, and I thought it was going to be like protest music, you know, like, and I was like, I hate protest music.
Right, because folk at that time.
Right,
Sure.
I just thought, that's why if I'd even known you were opening for Frank Black, I'd have been like, oh, it's going to be a protest guy.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
we met. I
even
realized
one protest song. I mean,
yeah.
Dude, well, there was a place that used to be right down the street, not State Bar. It was right here on Elm Street, and there was a big anti-Gulf War protest, and I played at it, and I was maybe 19 years old, and I didn't have any songs that were protest songs, so I thought, well, I could do How Many Roads Must a Man Walk Down Before?
Yeah.
So I start that song, and I realized, I don't actually know the fucking lyrics to this song. And so I got to verse number 2 and I was like, everybody. It was a disaster.
Oh, man.
So no, I am not a protest song
Got
singer.
it.
I'm
Got
against
it.
war, very peaceful, but no, not.
Yeah, yeah.
There was one other thing that happened to us in the beginning. So again, starting with humble ideas. So again, when I came in with these guys, and this is before, and eventually I brought in the drummer. I'd known him from a different band, but I had never been in a band that played like regular shows and stuff, right? So I get in with these guys, and we started playing first show right here at Chumley's, which is about 300 feet, 200 feet from where we're sitting right now at the corner of Elm and Maine. And then
Good Letterman.
And then Good Letterman, yeah. And then by the time Philip joined, there was a scene going on. So there was a big grunge scene going on, of course. We had a lot of friends in these bands, roommates and whatnot. But there was this little scene of a band called Cowboys and Indians, a band called the Cartwrights, Lone Star Trio, which is Matt Hillier's old band when he was young.
Kill Billy had just broken
Kill
up.
Billy was on their way. Oh, not yet, because y'all joined.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and these bands were playing sort of this off-brand Americana country music of some sort, like Lone Star Trio was a rockabilly band or whatever. And these, we were playing the same. We were playing Bar Soap, or we would play Naomi's, and they were alternating on the same things. And we sort of got to know those guys, and it sort of made what we were doing, it validated it. Like, we weren't alone. We were not the only band doing this, right? Even though theirs were, biggest difference were we were always in that world, the rock band. It's funny how you get framed. We've been the rock band, and we've been the country band. Just depends on where the gig is, right?
Right, yeah.
And we always just go, nah, we just do what we do. But our song 4-Leaf Clover definitely came from Cowboys and Indians. People would dance to see us, and Rhett's like, I wrote a swing song, you know, so people could dance a little bit. And it's a song we still encore with now, you know. And, and so there was a lot. And then Doreen, he had written when he was on tour with Kill Billy. Kill Billy kind of has this bluegrass thing. So a lot of that came, and in a lot of way, in a cool way, like the very natural way of us having a little scene and rubbing elbows with people who we thought they were cool and they thought we were cool. And we didn't have to feel on the outs because we couldn't go headline trees when, like, Funland was, for instance, is a good example. We had a friend, this band called Funland, really good band in those days, very much a grunge band. And in those days, they could draw 800 people to trees. And, you know, for us, and probably more for Rhett, because he was old friends with those guys, that probably didn't feel that good to see them doing so well. And here we are in this place, tiny places, but we did have our scene there, and then that helped. That helped. I mean, that was a huge thing until until once we got on our feet.
Yeah, I mean, you already knew you weren't going to change. Like we're not going to become grunge just to fit in. Like
I have a grunge instrument. I don't have acoustic. Well, I don't have acoustic guitar either. But I know we did not have grunge instruments.
Right. Okay, and so then you guys are playing around, and it's something that still is a thing. But like you said it earlier a little bit. You hit Denton, you'd hit Fort Worth, Austin. Was that part of the circle, kind of?
Not so much.
But like that, Rick's was one of the places I heard, and Groovy Mule. Those are like some of that.
It was really Dr. Smith's.
Dr. Smith's.
That was in Denton.
What was the pizza place though?
Dr. Smith's.
Oh God, that was great.
And was it like the same time as like the Toadies? Like who was like the contemporaries at that time?
The Toadies had blown up.
Yeah.
Toadies and Buck Pets were the two that broke out and had big
Trippin' Daisy.
record deals. Oh yeah, Trippin' Daisy.
And Reverend Heat. Those are the three.
4, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So you guys were behind that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That had happened but it was happening just out there in front of us.
Right.
But it felt like way in front of us.
Yeah, I bet at the time. Yeah.
Back then, 6 months was a lifetime.
It was a lifetime.
Like we'd never had a band that would last, which is because people ask about the band name and asking about how it coincides with the year 1997, which was the year that our sort of most loved record actually came out, our first electro record, Too Far to Care. But when we started in 93, like none of us had ever been in a band that lasted more than, I don't know, 6 months. So the idea that we would still be together 4 years later,
Right.
that was we were not worried about that.
And it might even be a springboard for it. We might still be below and need that name. 97.
Oh, that's fine. So the name was related to the year, like maybe we'll be around in the future. I'm confused.
No, people just always wonder what our band name is. Like, why? Because it was 1997 was a long time ago, so it's old.
Right.
Like, no, it was 93, and there's a train wreck ballad called "The Wreck of the Old 97." It's just people have never understood it, which in a way might have been a good thing.
Yeah.
And it was a little grabby. I feel like the things that stick out in a song, in a band name, they're often the things that you're tempted to soften, to like, let's just sandpaper down that part of the weirdness. But so often those things that stick out, the snag is the hook,
Right, right. Well, so what was it that pushed you into that same level where now you're like the big deal in Dallas?
Good songs.
Well, good songs. No, I know.
But exactly how?
Perseverance.
I think
what? Chicago helped.
Yeah.
Murray and I were touring with Kill Billy. We met some folks in Chicago that wound up starting Bloodshot Records. They brought us up for some gigs in Chicago. We suddenly developed a fan base in Chicago where we only had a little one here. And we did really well in Chicago. We came back, bragged about it, of course. And people were like, wait, people in Chicago like you? We like you too.
Yeah.
We liked you first.
That seems like the secret to success as a Dallas band is go somewhere else, get them to like you, and then come back.
And it might be everywhere as well. But I do think that there's something about Dallas because it's a complicated city, right? It's a city that's built on commerce, the reputation for big hair ladies and oil men. That's it's somewhat earned by our history, and then there's the Kennedy thing. There's a lot of complicated stuff about Dallas that feeds into a sort of self-hating narrative. And I felt like that was part of growing up for me. Like I had to say, well, we're from Dallas, but we're not like JR or whatever.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I think there are a handful of cities that apologize for themselves all the time, and I know that. As I stated earlier, part of my personality is that apologizing for myself thing. But I think Dallas does that a lot. Like, I think that if you're validated by Chicago, the folks in Dallas are going to want you a lot more than... I think Austin is so eaten up with its own ass. They're oh man, Austin, we're the best. Everybody, if all you need is Austin's validation, Austin loves you.
Right.
In fact, if somebody else likes you, they reject you because now you've sold out.
Too cool, yeah. Yeah, no, actually, I used to live in Austin, and my friend worked at the Austin City PR department. Her friend coined the phrase "music capital of the world." It was just like we need something to get more people in a town, and that's what they came up with.
Right.
So I don't ever bought it myself, but all right.
And one thing, to be fair, back to the songs thing.
Whoops.
Everything he just said doesn't count. But our first record, when we made it, it didn't feel this way, which was good news. Our first record is spectacular. Mm-hmm. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
We still play 2-3 songs off of it every night. We could just go on tour and play that record, and everyone at the show would go home happy.
Yeah.
And it's not that it sold a ton because it was on a little indie label. It's probably sold a total of 25,000 copies as far as just like physical copies, maybe a little bit more. I don't really know. But the point was, it stuck and it hit, and it just made people want more. Because I was a huge fan of these little project bands like ours, but had never been in one. And when we're going down the pike, I just thought, well, of course I like these songs. Hell, I'm playing guitar on them.
No, I mean, I will admit that you're the first guest that I'm actually was a fan of long before I moved to Dallas. I saw you guys at the Mint in like
in LA?
06. Yeah, like I used to live in LA for a while.
Yeah.
For me, it just seems like the songs are always comfortable and familiar, and like you have your own sound, but like even the new album, I was like, I've heard all these songs, but I haven't, but in a good way. Like I was like, these are all familiar, and like I don't have to there's no time between like getting used to them. Like I already am used to them.
Thanks.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about pretty much. That's me personally, but I feel like that's a lot of people must feel that way. What's interesting too is it's like I feel like you are like this weird dichotomy of huge and accessible. Because I've been to solo shows of yours where people can walk up to you after the show. It's like, it's just a different experience than a lot of other successful.
We've been lucky too. I feel like when that happens, they're always nice, Yeah. If I get approached in an airport or whatever, it's like, no, they're never being mean.
Right.
It's funny, you're making me think about that first record. We don't play St. Ignatius a lot, the first song of our first record. But sometimes when we do, there's moments in that song, like that's a weird song. Like it's a complicated song. And it makes me laugh. I'll think like, this was our first song on our first record. And it's got it's got like a really juicy musical section. But then it's got some
Dropout. Full Dropout.
Full Dropout. That's such a guitar hook.
Yeah.
But then there's that third verse where the dropout where it's someday when we're older, deep in loneliness, things we said today don't matter, no one could care less, which is like a little Beatles reference, which I've always loved doing the Easter eggs. We're just shadows, just ask Plato. Whenever I sing that line, I'm like, who fucking sings about Plato?
They're 21,
Right.
22.
Right.
Good God.
That's hilarious.
That's funny because that song there's a place, I think it burnt, called the Bee Kitchen in Chicago. And we had gone up there, like he said, we run up to Chicago. We did an opening slot with like Robbie Fulks and Freakwater and a couple bands, and that's what kind of made the Chicago thing start getting some traction. We went up there like 6 weeks later in headline, and we were playing that song again because it's our first record. We only had those songs, and we were not used to monitors. We didn't get monitors at home, right here, but it was a place about the size of Club Dada, and we had our own monitors. And when we got to the slowdown part of the song, the dropout, when he sings "Someday When We're Older," I started hearing something weird, and I thought something has gone wrong. What am I hearing? It's some sort of delay, and I looked out and I realized all the people were singing with it, and this was completely freaked me out in a good way.
Yeah.
And I remember telling them on the way home, going, "Look, guys, they were all singing along. We don't know any of those people. Those people came, who knows why they came, but they came. Whereas at least at home, we would know the people, and you'd be like, well, of course they like us because we live next door to them. And I go, if we can do it in Chicago, we can do it everywhere.
Yeah.
We can do it other places. And that's what we just decided to do. Because as soon as that first record came out, all we did was tour as much as we could afford to.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Stoned. 1, 2, 3. Must have been stoned when this whole thing started, 'cause I just can't seem to think straight anymore. Can't figure out where I'm at, maybe Memphis, maybe Mexico. Think you're swell, but I ain't gonna tell you so. I think you're great, but it's late and I'd better go. A hitchhike to Rome, say, lady, that's a dangerous plan. You're quite a woman, but I don't want to be your man. You're quite a kisser, but listen close and understand. Those Tres Cuatro. Take a letter to God. Dear sir, I'm dissatisfied. Well, it ain't your fault. They keep pouring salt on my heart. See, all I need is a brief reprieve. I keep believing I ain't getting nowhere. Won't you linger? Let me run my fingers through your hair. Won't you stay? I can play like I don't care. I think you're dope and I hope I'm making myself clear. I think you're flying, that's why I'm getting out of here. Yeah, I must have been stoned. Yeah, I must have been stoned. Yeah, I must have been stoned. Good Lord, I wish I was stoned. God, I remember Mike Schwedler, our incredible manager at the time, who's still like the fifth 97, has I remember back then he said to me once, right after that first record came out, he goes, listen, you're gonna think I'm blowing smoke up your ass, but I think this might be one of the most important records ever to come out in Dallas. And I was like,
Smoke.
I know. And then I started thinking, I'm like, but why not? I mean, somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sweet. I mean,
And one of the most can
been
include
lucky.
more than one or two.
Yeah.
We can at some point,
yeah.
they're all one.
And
The
you
Sleepy
never,
Heroes,
you
right?
never rehearsed, I heard. Is that true?
We did
Back-
recently.
Yeah, we did right before this tour started because we had to learn new songs. Back in the day, so when we were starting, we rehearsed all the time.
Oh, okay.
5 days a week.
And it was so fun. We treated it like a job. But then once we had done like 3 or 4 years of touring and played 5 nights a week, the idea of rehearsing was like, what? Are you kidding? I hear these
Sure.
songs in my
Right.
sleep.
Yeah.
My fingers just go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if it's any song off our first, say 4 records, 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, especially 4 records, my fingers just go to where they go.
We played it
Yeah,
so much.
it's automatic. I was curious, like how many songs in your set are like, we have to play this song every show? Like how much of your set is that?
About 5.
Big Brown Eyes, Barrier Reef, Time Bomb. Those, to me, those are the 3 that I feel like if we don't
Right.
play those, people will be upset.
Right.
Doreen.
Then the next, those 3. That's right, those 3.
Yeah.
Then Doreen, Question,
Question. Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe 4 Leaf,
Four-leaf Clover. Really, we've done Good with God pretty much every set since that was
Longer Than You've Been Alive.
longer than you.
Luckily, 2 of the bands that will be playing from now on
Or
are
more
out the last
recent.
5 years, 6,
Yeah.
8 years. But,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of cool to have these. And even, I tell you, Jesus Loves You getting there. Because those that don't know it, that's the name of a song. I'm not. I'm not. I'm asking
all
for a
over
blessing.
again.
I'm not
Yeah,
asking for a
but-
blessing.
yeah.
But
That, people love that song.
even if they don't know it, they like it. It's funny.
it sells itself in a
sells
live
itself.
setting.
It sells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I really like Magic on the new one. That one really hit me right away.
Funny, we tried to work that up as a live song.
Tricky to play.
It just.
I won't ask you to play.
It wasn't like I've played it in solo sets a few times and it works okay, but as a band song, because you can only slot in 3 or 4 new songs in a set.
Sure.
So it's just hard because we've got a handful that really have earned a spot. They sound great live. They land. They really like. Yeah. We play Somebody, Falling Down Around You, Where the Road Goes. Those 3 always land. We got Murray's really got a really great new song on the new record. And then other than that, Western Stars is a band favorite, so we really like that song.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of new songs. I mean, and people, they don't want to hear all the new songs.
Yeah. It's fun. I mean, so again, I'm looking at through my lens, but I'm a big Deadhead, and like there is some similarities. I mean, because you have the body of material, you don't know what you're going to get, although you do know what you're going to get sometimes. With them, you never knew what you're going to get. Right. But like it's like I don't know. It's you have that unique experience where you can be doing your old songs and have new songs come out and your fans are with you. You know, it's nice.
It is unique. It's not normal.
Yeah, no,
I do know that part.
Like I talked to Jared from Bowling for Soup, and he was like, "We have like half the set has got to be certain songs, or people are pissed, and like their fans are a lot more aggro than yours, I would assume."
Well, because they had hits, and the thing that it's the blessing in disguise for us was never having been pinned to a moment in time by a hit song or a hit album, and we get to move on. We get to exist in the '90s, the aughts, the '10s, the '20s. Like all people take all of our music, even new albums, they still take them seriously. Whereas we have friends, and I wouldn't be hurtful and name names, but they made records that broke through in a big way, but then everything after that has never been able to live in the shadow of this other album, and so they keep putting out new albums, and people are like, fine, just play the thing that we want. And that's hard. That's really hard, because then your life winds up being a nostalgia act. And thank God, I don't think I would trade, even though right now I'm trying to hustle to put 2 kids through college, I don't think I would trade the kind of financial security a hit song would have given us for having to give up ever putting out anything that was taken seriously upon release. Right.
I mean, it's like the brightest candle burns fastest, or whatever that saying is. It's funny too. I heard the story that the Violent Femmes, whenever they put a new album out, that their first album outsells the new album every time. It's so wild, but people, it's like so weird. It's like the tribute thing, and it's like what people just want to be. Again, I think that's what helps you guys. It's like for me, I feel like it's familiar when I haven't heard it yet. So like that's what people are looking for, is familiarity in the music.
And also we've stretched the boundaries of what the old '97 sound is over the years a little bit. But we've never done a full like Metal Machine music, like a full 180. We've never said, oh, you know what? Now we're a synth band. We've never changed the definition of our band sound. So when we put out a new record, it feels comfortable and familiar. And that's not us trying so hard to like steal everybody's money or whatever. It's just we like what we do. Our machine only puts out a certain kind of product within these parameters. And thank God it's something that we're proud to do, and people seem to still want it.
Yeah, totally. So I used to be a songwriter. I'm not anymore, but I really would have liked to have gone to your camp. Can you tell us about the songwriting camp you did?
Another one's coming up, and Ken Bethea is going to be my guest at this September 3rd to 6th up in the Catskill Mountains in New York. We've got I've got the Songwriting is Magic retreat. Last year we had Frank Black, the aforementioned.
Wow.
Frank Black from the Pixies was my guest host. This year, Ryan Miller, who's a Dallas native who wound up in the Northeast with his band Guster. Ryan is going to be my guest host, and Ken Bethea, and Jamie Wyatt is a guest host on this, the comedian Dave Hill. But it's just, like 3 or 4 days of songwriting workshops, and a lot of the attendees playing songs for us and us giving feedback. And it's really just such a good vibes. It's I think it's really useful. I think there's a lot of instruction that goes on. But for me, the thing that I really love the most is sort of the community aspect of it, and just how sweet and fun it is for everybody to be playing their songs and kind of lifting each other up. I'm actually looking for a place to do it in North Texas, in the Dallas area, because New York, the Catskill Mountains, like you fly into Albany and then rent a car. It's a lot, and I think that we have a pretty good fan base around here, and I would love, and I know there's a lot of aspiring songwriters around here, and I don't want to do it down by Austin, which is kind of like, well, do it down by Austin. That's the music capital of the world, trademark. But I'm looking for a place around Dallas. I just haven't landed on the perfect place yet. So anybody knows, let me know. It needs to be a big campground with multiple price points where people can sit around a campfire late at night playing songs for each other and getting bleary.
I feel
Yeah,
like
they
someone's
both
going to
are.
hit me up for that because I feel like there's like I said, I'm a deadhead, so there's a lot of those camping situations and
Yeah.
people have properties. So yeah,
It's nice when there's a fancy section for the people that want to not get bit by mosquitoes,
Right.
and then there's tents for people that want to go the cheap route.
Absolutely. So, what's left? What else is on your list of like things you want to accomplish in this lifetime?
And this, band-wise, yeah.
Yeah, band-wise.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Just keep we have a new record and there are things that happen when a new record comes out. So regular touring is regular touring, and we've been doing it a long time. So while it's pretty fun, it's a little more locked and loaded than it used to be. As far as it's still fun, the stage part. It's this point. It's the funnest. My funnest day on tour is the stage part. We'll try to play some disc golf, or something like that. Me, Rhett, sometimes Philip. But sometimes you said way in the future. We're not even going that far. But things happen sometimes in the band. They're outside the norm. So sometimes we're supposed to do a cruise thing next year. That we've done the Outlaw Country Cruise before. This is one I probably shouldn't say what it is because it's not announced yet. But it's the same people as Outlaw Country, but it's a different vibe, a different kind of music.
We're going to go film a big TV show, which
Yeah.
we're not allowed to announce what that is either. But it's hilarious.
It's
got
on
some-
Netflix.
It's got some big old school stars in it. We're going
Yeah.
to play ourselves.
That's in
it
June.
as a band.
Oh, cool.
So 2 years ago, we were in the Gardens of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So sometimes the fun, we're jaded in the sense that regular touring, which most people honestly would pay good money to go get to do what we do because it's really badass. But at this point, you're kind of like, you've been here, many times, whatever, this town or that town. But it's still fun to do,
Sure.
But sometimes when these oddball things come up, they're pretty cool just because.
It's funny. I just realized we're trying to crack Europe because we never did it.
True.
When we were breaking through in the States, the management only gets paid for the money you make. So when you start off in Europe, you're losing money till you finally click over there, unless you have some fluky thing happen. And so where a lot of other bands exist in Europe or exist maybe only in Europe, or not only. Like I was hanging out with some of the guys from Midlake up in Denton this week, and they do well in the States, especially in some larger markets, but they kill in Europe, like all over Europe, Eastern Europe, weird countries you would never even guess, and they love it. They go over there, they have fun, they make money, they're rock stars. And I'm just like shaking my head going, boy, we missed the boat on that one.
Yeah.
But, we get to, in the United States, we get to go spend 3 weeks on the West Coast, 3 weeks in the Midwest, 3 weeks on the East Coast, in a tour bus with a big crew. Every night's really nice and cushy, good audiences. So I'm glad we got that. I mean, I will never trade that in for anything.
Sure.
But Europe is something that we're trying to chip away at, and hopefully one of these days we'll go over there and we won't lose money.
Right. Yeah, we went in November, and it was really fun.
But it
Every
was
show was packed, but
so
every
humble.
show was the size of the
Our
ticket.
1993
It's,
shows.
Right.
it's the size of the ticket area at the gigs we play.
Right,
just
right.
when you go stand to get your will call. There's little bitty places, but everybody was packed, and they were all like, they're fans. They were singing along. So, I mean, you just go, well.
Yeah, that's cool about in Europe.
It's
I mean,
fun.
you can make that happen just to be in Europe when you're not playing. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Is there anything you guys want to tell me that the audience that we haven't covered?
Yeah, you hit on the,
Yeah.
like, you listed off some of my hustle. I've got a couple of kids' books. I've had some different things published.
Right.
I want to continue to write. I really love teaching songwriting. That's more and more a part of my life these days. Yeah, man, Murray's got some solo records that he's threatening to release eventually. Like 3 of them. He's going to drop
wow.
all at once at some point. Who knows? I think it's okay to say that. He talks about it.
He's moving to Seattle.
Oh, really?
So now we're going to have a bandmate in Seattle. And so he's lived in
Interesting.
Pasadena a long time, but
Okay.
he's moving to Seattle. And Philip and I still live here in Lake Highlands, so I guess we're here till
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
drop. I don't
Me
know.
and Murray are about as far as we can be in opposite directions
Right.
from y'all.
Right. That's wild. Okay. Hey, you guys, thanks so much for coming down and doing this.
Absolutely.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's super fun. We could talk for another hour. This is great. Thank you.
Well, if you didn't have a sound check. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks again, you guys. I'd like to thank my guests Rhett Miller and Ken Bethea. The songs they played were Stoned and Lonely Holiday. You can find Old 97s pretty much anywhere, but we'll have links in the show notes as well. Thank you again to the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. Theme song, Unstoppable by Salim Nuralla. I'm so excited for Season 3. We've got great guests lined up, so stick around, follow, share, like, all the good stuff.
This is Lonely Holiday. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Was a lonely holiday. I was alone. You were away in Fayetteville or in another state. There's so many towns I hate. When you leave me, breaks me like a bone. It's never as bad as when you come home. I've thought so much about suicide. Parts of me have already died. Lonely, baby, I'm not lonely. Baby, I'm not. I got my imaginary friends. Happy, baby, I'm so happy. Baby, I'm so. I got my imaginary friends. And if you don't love me, would you please pretend? It was a lonely holiday. I was alone, I was afraid. The bedroom walls were closing in. It must be closing time again. When you leave me, breaks me like the note that you said got stuck in your throat. I thought so much about suicide. Parts of me have already died.